Friends, welcome to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. I looked down at her smiling face. Are you feeling better now? What is it? She asked. Much, much better. Will we have time for one more time? Maybe. It all depends on how quickly the younger one can return. I can help, she said. She really helped. When I became firm, she knelt down and said, In the ass this time, lover boy. Use me. I gave her what she wanted, and it didn't take me long to prepare, as I had already been there once this afternoon. When the phone rang, I was in the bathroom washing my body. She answered, listened, and said, Thank you, John. Then she hung up the phone and informed, They just came out. John says they're heading to the hotel lobby, so we have time for one more time. Maybe, but I wouldn't want to take any chances. We're doing well, and I'd like to keep it that way. When can we do it again? It seems that they have a schedule, Monday and Thursday, so the next time will be on Thursday. I think I can wait that long. However, you will have to be patient. Just think about the week they won't be at the conference. I'm looking forward to it. A whole week with you. I will spoil you so much. Do you ever plan to stop everything? You know my position on this. You'll do it first, and then I'll do it. But you have to be the first. I'll do it, but I'm not ready yet. So you've answered your question. When you're ready, let me know and I'll start preparing. You'll do it, and then I will. We took a shower together, got dressed and kissed just before leaving the room, and then went our separate ways. She went to her cheating husband, and I went to my cheating wife. I met Melissa in my freshman year of college and fell head over heels in love. We dated for 3 months before we made love for the first time, and it was magical, I thought. Neither of us was new to this business. I didn't know about Melissa's previous experience, but my journey began on the night of our prom with Pauline French, and some others took care of continuing my education. By the time Pauline graduated from high school, she was hinting at marriage, and although I was head over heels in love with Melly, I still hesitated a little. Pauline taught me another lesson besides pussy licking. I was in love with her and thought she loved me. She started talking to me about marriage as soon as we graduated from college, but I was wrong. As the old country song says, she would be good in Hollywood, in a fantasy world. She had a future in movies. Because she behaved like this, it was like she was in love with me. She returned to the East to go to college. I received 2 letters where she confessed her unbreakable love to me, and then I never heard or saw her again. So I did not believe that head over heels in love is forever. But Melissa didn't leave me after writing the letters, so I finally gave up and proposed to her. 3 weeks after graduation, we got married. We decided not to have children until we had a solid financial foundation and a home. 2 years after the wedding, we started trying to have them. After a year of trying, when nothing happened, I went to the doctor to get checked out. It turned out that due to some childhood illness, chickenpox or mumps, I was infertile. I accepted this as one of the disappointments of life and moved on with my life. Melly also seemed to have put aside her disappointment and moved on. We had been married for a little over 9 years when I found out that Melissa was cheating on me. It took me by surprise. There were no signs. There was no difference in how she treated me. She was still as loving as she was on our wedding day. We still made love 3 or 4 times a week, and several times she was the initiator. She never stayed late at work. She didn't have hen parties, although she sometimes met with her colleagues to have a drink after work, but she was always home by 6:30 or 7 in the evening. I didn't know anything at all. How did you find out? Her lover's wife told me. I used to have lunch at the B&B cafe every day, and one Thursday, as I was sitting in a booth waiting for my order to be delivered, Mrs. Belson slipped into the booth opposite me. I knew her from Melly's Christmas parties and corporate picnics. She was the wife of Melly's boss. It wasn't difficult for me to remember Mrs. Belson. She was the most beautiful woman I've ever looked at. Sitting down opposite me, she asked, How are you, Bob? I'm holding up, Mrs. Belson. Angela, she said. Don't be formal, Bob. To what do I owe your company, Angela? Actually, Bob, I'm here to either ruin your day or make it better. Choose what you like best. I don't understand. It's very simple. To spoil it is to tell you that right now, as we are talking, your wife is cheating on you with my husband in room 211 of the Hilton Hotel. I sat there, stunned by what I had just been told. Didn't you suspect? This has been going on for 3 months now, at least 3 months that I know about. According to what my investigators have found out, they have lunch at the Hilton every Monday and Thursday. I don't have the slightest idea. I didn't see any changes in her at all. I find that hard to believe. You seem to have taken the news much more calmly than I expected. Perhaps I would have reacted differently if someone I knew had told me that he saw my wife walking into a hotel or motel room with another man. I would have gone looking for evidence and maybe met with her and demanded an explanation. But you obviously know what you're talking about. If you have known about this for 3 months, then I have no doubt that you have enough evidence. What I don't understand, even though I don't want to belittle my wife, is why your husband wants Melly when he has you. Melly is beautiful, but you are stunning. Actually, I know the answer to this question. It sounded during their conversation in bed. He thinks I'm a controlling bitch. He thinks that he should run the company like a man, not me. And it pisses him off that I'm the boss, and cheating is his way to get even with me. In your case, judging by the conversation in bed, your wife believes that she needs a real man in her life. She loves you, but considers you a less worthy man because you can't give her children. Is she trying to get pregnant with him? If so, she's out of luck. Frank is infertile, although I don't think he knows about it. I wanted children, but it didn't happen, so I took a test and found out that I couldn't get pregnant. At the same time, I took some of Frank's fluid, tested it, and found out that he was infertile. I never told him about this because he considers himself macho, and I didn't want him to feel like an inferior man because he couldn't do his job. I made it clear to him that I couldn't have children, and that was the end of it. Well, that was the part about destruction. What about making my day? I don't think I look bad, and you said you thought I was stunning. I suggest that every Monday and Thursday we meet at the Hilton, rent a room and do what they do and at the same time as they do. You can't be serious about this. Oh, but I'm telling you, what could be better than revenge? I agree that revenge would be great, but I can't do it. Why? I have a job. I can't break out for a couple of hours every Monday and Thursday. It's not a problem. My corporation owns the company you work for, and my cousin Ralph is your boss. One phone call is enough. If you can provide it, then I'm in business. The phone call was made, and suddenly I was free from work from noon to 3 o'clock every Monday and Thursday. And since I continued to receive a salary, then, in fact, I was paid for making love to the wife of my wife's lover. Of course, Angela wanted to know what I was thinking of doing with Melissa, and I said I'd get a divorce. She wanted to know when, and when I said I was going to see a lawyer next week, she talked me out of it. I want to do what Frank does, at the same time as he does. If you divorce your wife, I will have to divorce Frank, because once what your wife is doing to Frank gets out, I will have no choice but to divorce him. I'm going to do it anyway, but I want to play with you a little bit. Is there any time frame? Not really. I think I'll leave it up to you. When you get tired of me, come on, apply, and I'll do the same. When will I get tired of her? In that case, I may never get divorced. Besides being the most stunningly beautiful woman I've ever met, Angela had something else. She loves passionate love, which Melissa never does. Anyway, for my sake. He always says it's too disgusting to even think about. Frank Belson had no problem getting it from her. I found out about this when Angela showed me some of the materials collected by her investigator. What I couldn't understand the most was how Melissa was behaving towards me. Even though she makes love to Frank Belson twice a week, she still uses me 4 or 5 times a week. There is no noticeable loss of love or affection for me, and if I did not know for sure that she was cheating on me, I would put my marriage in the top 10 of all marriages. Angela and I dated for a little over 3 months before one Friday I said it was time to sue. Are you tired of me? I doubt I'll ever get tired of you, but I've already gotten to the point where I can't stand this two-faced bitch stabbing me in the back. Two-faced? Also loving and affectionate with me, while she uses your husband several times a week. You know from the notes John gets that she really loves you. I know that's what she says, but I find it hard to believe. How can she love me and stab me in the back? You know that as soon as you apply, we won't be able to see each other anymore, at least until the divorces are final. Are you saying that you want to see me after that? Yes. In fact, when the divorces are final, I'll want to see you 7 days a week. I didn't expect that. I thought I was just a hobby for her. God knows, the more time I spent with her, the more I wanted it. Besides the fact that she is just gorgeous and a tigress in bed, she is also smart, witty, and has a wonderful sense of humor. I wondered if we had a future. Admittedly, the only time we spent together was in bed, and there's more to life than that. That evening after dinner, when I was helping Melly wash the dishes, I asked her, "Why don't you make a list of what you want to keep?" A list? What do I want to leave? There is no fault in the laws of this state. This means that everything is divided 50-50. So what would you like to get as your half? My half? Did you come in for a drink after work or maybe 6? Of course not. The question is absolutely logical. What do you want from our divorce? Divorce? Now I know exactly what you've been drinking. Not at all. Divorce is what happens when one partner cheats on the other. Are you cheating on me? Of course not. You're doing this with Frank Belson, which is the reason for the divorce. Are you crazy? Me and Frank Belson? Not a damn thing like that. What gave you this idea? Photos and videos that his wife shared with me? Do you really think I'm not that much of a man if I can't impregnate you? However, it doesn't matter. What's done is done. Make your own list. Of course, I'm going to leave my tools, the truck, and the convertible in the living room. Oh, and you'll sleep in the guest room until you find a place to live. Contact me as soon as you put together your list so that we can settle all differences between us, and not let the courts make decisions for us. I'll be in the garage for about an hour. This will give you enough time to move your things from my bedroom to the guest room. I left the kitchen and went to the garage. I changed the oil in the truck and did some work to keep myself busy enough until Melly moved things. When I returned to the house, I didn't see Melly downstairs, so I assumed she was in the guest room. But I was wrong. She was in the master bedroom, lying naked on the bed with her legs spread. I told you to take the spare room. My place is in this one. Hurry up and take off your clothes. I'm waiting and I need you in me. I looked at the window and, no matter how much I wanted to immediately undress and enter between my spread legs, I did not take a step towards the bed. Instead, I went to the closet and picked up what I needed to wear to work in the morning. Then he left the bedroom, went into the spare room and got into bed. I was just getting under the covers when Melly came into the room. Go away, Melissa. No go away and all that. My place is in bed with you. I can't. I will think that I am not a man enough for you, and this will undoubtedly affect my game. Don't be silly, Bob. You know you're more than enough of a man for me. That's not what you told Belson. To hell with Frank Belson. You said that. That's the problem. That's why we're getting divorced. Now go away. No. I got out of bed, took her by the hand, dragged her to the door and pushed her out into the hallway. He closed the door and locked it. She was banging on the door and demanding that I let her in, but I ignored her, went back to bed, and eventually she got tired of banging on the door, and I fell asleep. In the morning, when I got up and opened the door to leave the room, I was in for a surprise. Melissa was sitting on the floor with her back against the door. She stood up and said, I didn't want you to leave here in the morning without our conversation, and you should know why. I don't want a divorce, Bobby. I love you, and you know it. I prove it every day of the week. Let's go to the kitchen. I'll put the coffee on, we'll sit down, and I'll tell you why I did it. I was torn apart. I didn't want to have anything to do with her, but I wanted to know why she gave a shit about our marriage, and until I find out, it's probably going to gnaw at me. While she was putting the coffee on, I went out on the porch and picked up the daily newspaper. I was sitting at the table reading the sports section when she said the coffee was ready. I poured myself a cup, sat back down, and waited for Melissa to tell me exactly what she wanted me to know. I'm with Belson because he's blackmailing me. What the hell could he possibly have on you that makes you cheat? He has photos that could send me to jail. Photos? Photos of what? The way I make love to his niece. He has a sister, Katie, and Katie has a daughter, Amy. It turns out that their family has a fairly free relationship when they can enter each other's house without knocking or ringing. Amy and I thought we were alone in the house. Amy was sitting on the couch with her legs spread. We didn't hear Frank come in and didn't know he was there until he took some photos of us with his cell phone. Amy started crying, and I jumped up and ran out of the house. Frank didn't know who I was at the time, so it wasn't a big problem for me. So what if he took photos? 2 people making love by mutual consent is not a crime. It is a crime if one of them is an adult and the other is a minor. I was 19 and Amy was only 16. It wasn't a problem at the time because Frank didn't know who I was. Only when I came to work in Melbourne. I worked there for about 6 months, and one day Frank came into my department and recognized me. A couple of days later he came up, showed me the photos of me and Amy, and said that in order for him not to take the photos to the police, I should make love to him. I laughed at him and said that no one cares about what happened more than 7 years ago. I said I didn't believe him, and he said he was giving me a couple of days to check. I checked and found that he was right. I gave up, and here we are. I know what you're going to say. You'd say I should have come to you and we'd have found a way out. Maybe in the old days, we would have been able to steal photos and negatives, but now it's not the good old days. Now he can upload photos from his phone to his computer, and from his computer to a couple of flash drives and even to the cloud. If we don't kill him, there's no way we can be sure that everything won't become known, and I can't imagine any of us going to jail for some kind of love. The point is, if this gets out, I'm the one who's going to end up in jail, and I didn't want to take any chances. I don't want a divorce, Bobby. I love you, and I do my best to prove it to you every day of the week. Frank gets the benefit, but you get the love. I even make sure that you get 3 times as much as he does. I think it's nonsense. He gets your ass, and you never gave it to me. Frank wanted her, and because Frank was happy and made sure I didn't go to jail, I let him have her. As soon as he got it, I was going to give it to you if you ever asked for it again. It won't change anything, Melissa. I've listened to the recordings of your meetings with Frank that Angela has. I've heard all those disparaging remarks about me that you've been making, that I'm not a man because I can't impregnate you. I heard you telling him I'm not fucking standing in bed. I've heard you say that I'm a buffoon as a husband, and you'd like him to be your man instead of me. All this is nonsense to feed his ego. I don't know when Angela suspected Frank and assigned detectives to him, but I guess it's noticeably later than we started, so she doesn't have recordings of our early sessions where Frank more or less set the tone for our meetings. He made it clear what he wanted. I got the feeling that for some reason he needed to dominate me, to command me. I had a feeling that his ego demanded that he be in charge. I remembered Angela saying that Frank cheated with Melissa to get even with her for being so bossy, for wearing pants in the family. Maybe so, Melissa, but you should have come to me anyway. I'm sure we could have found a way out. It's easy for you to say you wouldn't have gone to prison and most likely to the list of sex offenders. The only way out would be to make Amy swear that she was of legal age when the photos were taken, but she died in a fire 2 years ago. If anything you could think of didn't work and it made Frank angry, then I'd have to pay the price, and I just didn't want to take the risk. Not even to save a marriage? What's the good of being married to you and sitting in a prison cell while you're at home? We could always work things out. And if you couldn't? I didn't have an answer to that question, so I said, I have to go to work. What about us? I don't know, Melissa, I just don't know. I've been thinking about the situation for most of the day. He came up with 6 ways to get Melly out from under Belson's blackmail, but upon closer examination, each of them showed that there was no absolute certainty that Belson would not be able to carry out his threat. I had one idea that might work. There is little chance, but it was worth considering. I called Angela and asked if she could meet me for a drink after work. We met at Bud's bar, and I talked about what I had found out, about all the ideas that I had, and that I doubted their reliability. Then Angela said, Probably the first thing I should ask is, do you believe her? Yes, I think I do. Enough to forgive her and stay with her? I don't know. I loved her. Hell, I still love her. And if I hadn't seen the video that you have, I might have done it. But I don't know if I could have done it with images of her and Frank burned into my brain. And that's just part of it. What are the other parts? You. Do you want to explain? I don't want to give up what we have. You're hesitating, my love. I think we need to find out first if she's lying about being blackmailed. And how are we going to do that? I have a plan. Melissa and I got home from work at about the same time, and Melly asked me what I wanted for dinner. We're going somewhere tonight. Oh? And where to? At the Hilton. Why there? It's a little expensive there. We'll meet someone there. With whom? Someone who can help you with your problem. Who is this? You'll just have to wait and see. When we arrived at the Hilton, Melly turned towards the restaurant, but I took her by the elbow and directed her to the elevators. What are you doing? I told you we'd meet someone here. I thought you meant dinner. It all depends on how you look at it, I said, pressing the elevator button. The door opened, we entered, and I pressed the button for the 3rd floor. We got out on the 3rd floor, and I led her down the corridor to room 307. I took a key card out of my pocket and inserted it into the slot. The door opened, and I said, Symbolic, isn't it? This is the same room that you and Frank used yesterday, right? She tried to pull away from me, but I grabbed her arm tightly, dragged her into the room, and closed the door with a clang. Melly was shocked to see Angela Belson sitting there waiting for us. She turned to me in confusion. I pointed to a chair and said, Sit down, Melly. Everything will be clear in a minute. Melly sat down and I said, I'll leave you ladies. He left the room and went to the next one. He took his phone out of his pocket and sat on the edge of the bed. The phone was on and had already connected to Angela's phone, which was also on and lying on the dresser in her room. I missed the beginning of the conversation, moving between the rooms, taking out my phone and sitting down. But as soon as I took out my phone, I heard, "Your story is hard to believe, so we came up with a plan to at least check if it could be true. Why are you involved in this, and where is my Bobby? Your Bobby, and Angela put a strong emphasis on yours, is downstairs in the bar waiting for my call. As for my participation, after I told Bob about what I found out about you and my husband, we kept in touch. He told me about the reason for your connection with Frank, and that he doubts your stories. I told him that I had a way to find out if it was possible. Naturally, my plan will require your cooperation. Will this help me keep Bob? I don't know. Perhaps this will at least reassure him a little about whether your explanation is feasible or not. If he thinks it might be true, he might be ready to forgive, but I don't know about forgetting. I'm desperate. I can't bear to lose my Bobby. I will do everything that can give me a chance to keep it for myself. What needs to be done? You're saying Frank has evidence that could send you to jail. In particular, the photos in which you enter into a loving relationship with an underage girl. Is that true? Yes. Was she the only girl you had a relationship with? There was a pause before Melly answered. No. How much is it? Another long pause and then, 4 or 5. I'm not sure. Let me guess. The girls from your sorority in college, right? Yes. Well, I did that too. Throughout college with several sorority sisters. I haven't done it since, and to be honest, I miss it. Be honest with me, did you miss it? Have you ever looked at another woman and thought, would I mind doing it? There was a moment's pause, and then Melly said, I'm looking at one right now. I hoped that it would be so. Would you like to undress and join me? Will this help me keep Bobby? I don't know. I just told him that I had a way to get you out of Frank's influence. Can you do it? I can do it. How? Not right now. I'm excited about thinking about my old college days. I want to relive them. You are welcome. You're going to have to take off your panties. I'm not wearing them. See? Ooh, did you shave expecting me to react the way you want? No, this is my usual state. It looks amazing. Why don't you undress and make the bed while I undress? Then, for the next half hour, the sounds of 2 women pleasuring each other could be heard. I'm not going to lie. Those sounds turned me on like hell. Then I heard, I'm going to call Bob now. Don't you want to get dressed first? There's no need. Bob saw me naked. Did he see you naked? You and my Bobby? Don't talk to me like that. I might as well say you and my Frank, but it won't get you anywhere. But you and Bobby, how? How long has it been? Since I shared my private investigator's report with him and offered him some love in return. I have to say that when I compare Bob and Frank in the bedroom, Bob comes out on top. Don't I know? I just had a sinful thought. Call Bobby and then let him come in and see how we're doing this. Are you serious? Yes, why? And why not? They both laughed, and then Angela picked up her phone, pretended to call me, and told me to go back to the room. I waited 3 minutes and then went to the next room and entered with my key card. I made a little noise, then opened the door and went in. When I saw them in the 69 position, I pretended to be surprised and exclaimed, What the hell? Then he began to undress while both of them on the bed ignored me. Undressing, I moved to the bed. Melly was on top, so I moved in behind her. Angela started making me feel good while I was using Melly. It feels incredible. I couldn't understand how Melly could work well with Angela when I was using her so hard. But judging by Angela's voice, Melly was doing it. I made Melly finish the job twice before I did it myself, and then she did it again. Exhausted, I lay on the bed while both women tried unsuccessfully to lift me up again. When they failed, they attacked each other. When I fell asleep, they were still doing it. When I woke up, I found myself between 2 warm bodies. The first thing I thought about was how long the 2 of them had been together after I dozed off. There was no way I could get up without disturbing them, but I needed to go to the bathroom. When I was trying to get out of bed, Angela woke up and reached out to me as I stepped over her to get down to the floor. Fortunately, she didn't have time to grab on, and I was able to get out of bed and head to the bathroom. When I returned, Angela was sitting on the edge of the bed and said, It's my turn, and don't say anything until I get back. She went to the bathroom, and I saw that Melly was awake and looking at me. And now what? What is it? She asked. You heard Angela. No talking until she gets back. Who appointed her in charge? Me. After a minute or so, Angela returned, sat on the edge of the bed and said, I vote for her to stay. Yesterday, I handed Frank my resignation papers before I came here and rented a room. I gave him 24 hours to get my stuff out. As soon as he moves out, you two can move in with me. Melly laughed and said, You're not serious. Of course, seriously. She turned to me and asked, What do you think about this idea, Bob? I like it. We both looked at Melly. I can't believe you're serious. Why not? I need what you can offer, and I also need what Bob will bring. You want Bob. Everyone gets what they want. Except Frank. Frank is still a problem for me. He can still put me in jail. No, it can't. In order for him to do this, he needs a victim to come forward with an accusation, and then he can back up this statement with his photos. But as Bob told me, the girl in question died a few years ago. No sacrifice, no case. The photos themselves are meaningless. There's no date on them, and you can always claim that she was over 18 at the time. Are you saying that I've been under his control for 6 months, scared to death, for nothing? I'm afraid so. The most he can do is try to slander you and maybe just ruin your reputation. How can he do that? Post photos on social networks and declare that you had love with a minor. I can live with that. I can always say that we were both underage at the time or that we were both over 18. All right then, Angela said. What about my idea? Bob said he was in favor. And you? Melly looked at me and asked, Are you going to divorce me? No, I'm angry that you didn't come to me when that jerk approached you, but I can understand your fears and what you were thinking. I'll get over it. Then Melly turned to Angela and asked, How do you see it? It will be done on the go. I would like at least one night like yesterday. Maybe one night just between you and me. Of course, you'll sleep with Bob most nights, but I'd like to spend the night with him from time to time. Do you want to spend the night with Bob only from time to time? I don't want to be a pig in this regard. I hope we can continue our long lunches on Mondays and Thursdays, but from time to time I would really like to wake up with him in the morning. I might agree to it if I can have lunch with him on Tuesdays and Fridays. What do you think, Bob? Asked Angela. I don't think I can handle it. I'm going to have to work forever to make love like that. It sounds great, but I think it could have a negative effect on my health. And then there's the job. Even though you own the company, there's no way in the world I can keep taking long lunches and doing the job I was hired to do. No problem. You can change jobs. With Frank gone, I'll be much more busy managing things. I'm going to need a personal assistant. They pay $3,000 more for this job than you earn now, and all this will be a bonus. Since you're both going to live with me, you won't have to pay for the house, utilities, and all that. You can save a lot. That sounds good, Melly said. But what happens when you get tired of us? Bob knows about it, but you don't, so I'll explain everything to you. I intended to marry Bob as soon as my divorce from Frank and his divorce from you became final. Since that's not going to happen now, if you agree to my proposal, at least he'll be around. And now that I've found you, I have everything I need. I'll never get tired of you. Angela filed for divorce, citing adultery, using her private investigator's report as evidence. Then, using the same evidence, she fired Frank for violating the section of the company's internal policy and procedures manual regarding behavior with someone under his direct supervision, and for theft, since he used the company's credit card to pay for hotel rooms used for meetings with Melissa. I became her personal assistant, and one of my duties was to unzip when Angela closed the door of her office, took off her panties, and sat on her desk with her legs wide apart. It was the only part of my job that I really hated. Yeah, right now. With the help of a real estate company, Melly and I put our house up for rent and moved in with Angela. It was a big change for us. Angela has a swimming pool, a jacuzzi, and a gym with a Swedish staircase, a stationary bike, a treadmill, and dumbbells. As Angela said, everything was done on the go, and what helped was that we didn't have a set schedule, and almost constantly we acted on circumstances. There were nights when Melly didn't want to, and I played with Angela. On those nights when Angela didn't want to, I played with Melly. On the same evenings when I didn't want to, Melly and Angela had fun. Regardless of who was in a good or bad mood, most of my nights were spent in bed with Melly. I used to wake up in bed with only Angela, but usually between both women. It's been over 5 years since we started, and so far it's been an explosion and no signs of slowing down. There was, however, one change. After a 4-year period, Angela felt that I had learned enough to be her assistant to give me Frank's job, and she made Melly her assistant.